From LALATE headquarters in Santa Monica, this is Afternoons LALATE.
It's a big afternoon of Afternoons LALATE for April 26, 2022, with incredible great news about your fourth stimulus check update of 2022. In today's recording, we go over the breaking news as the Dow is down dramatically again for another consecutive day as inflationary concerns grow across the board. But the good news is that multiple stimulus checks are going out. One from the federal government, one from the states, and more could be coming on the horizon. We'll go over the incredible news across the board that you need to know. But we start today with, of course, the Build Back Better Act that has a surprising developing detail from Joe Manchin. What is it? All the latest details in this breaking news report for Afternoons today. Then we go to the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve, of course, is about to raise those interest rates at the May FOMC meeting. But what new inflationary data came out today that is surprising? It concerned the housing market once again, and it also concerned the travel and leisure industry. Meantime, it also concerned auto. Yeah, sound like familiar narrative? It is. Those are the two industries that are likely already in recession. Then we turn to sixth stimulus, the latest stimulus package that is caused by Putin. And we have details today about that and why it needed to be done, because the housing market is about to take a major hit across the board. We have student loan debt forgiveness. Great news on that front as more executive orders are expected by the White House. 6 came last week. More can come this week, as complete student loan debt forgiveness is still on the table. Then we look in the incredible details of checks, lots of checks. Checks from the federal government by Joe Biden. These are presidential forced stimulus checks landed by direct deposit. I'll show you how to get these presidential forced stimulus checks landing by direct deposit. Then we'll be going to the state forced stimulus checks landing as well. Changing developing details as we've gone from 2 states to 20 in just a few days. From the shores of Santa Monica, California, it's a big day as big checks are landing. Don't just look to Congress, also look to this channel, because I'm going to show you how forced stimulus checks are coming from other sources, and they're all incredible. Mostly by direct deposit, big sums of money, and they're all happening right now. What's also happening right now? It's Afternoons, with the breaking news starting this moment. And good afternoon, everybody. I hope you're having a beautiful day. It's an interesting day for April 26, 2022, because guess what's going on? Wall Street is actually tracking down again as it fell nearly 900 points last week. Right now, at the time of today's podcast, taped early in the day, it's down about 483, the Dow, and the oil is surging back up again. We have breaking news from Joe Manchin about Build Back Better Act. We also have breaking news about student loan debt forgiveness, the Federal Reserve, SS300, and also all those incredible direct deposit checks. It's a big news day, and over the next 1 hour broadcast, approximately, we're going to go over all these incredible sums of money and all the financial news you need to know. Let's start, of course, with the Build Back Better Act. Really incredible details at issue. We have not one, not two, but 3 major developing details happening on Build Back Better Act. I'm going to first start with the first one, which is much of nothing, but I want to give you what's at issue. Joe Manchin and Lisa Murkowski, she's of course a Republican, he's of course a Democrat, quote unquote, are introducing a bipartisan piece of legislation today, and it's a climate bipartisan piece of legislation. As you know, he is chair of the Energy Committee. Why am I mentioning this in the context of Build Back Better? Here's what the press is going to say, and here's what I'm going to say. They're going to say that this bipartisan piece of climate legislation will unravel, block, or cause harm to Build Back Better, because Build Back Better has a different piece of climate in there that many may think is contradictory to what Joe Manchin is doing. Basically, what they're going to say is that Joe Manchin is introducing a bipartisan piece of legislation that'll sort of unravel or block the climate part of Build Back Better. Do I think that's happening? No. Do I think the reverse is happening? Yeah. I think that Joe Manchin's introduction of this provision, this body of a law or proposed piece of legislation, which of course, by the way, is never going to pass. Whatever he and Lisa Murkowski are doing is never going to pass. I think that his introduction of it is good because it starts people talking about Build Back Better Act. The worst thing you ever want to have is people not to talk about Build Back Better Act. So he's saying, I'm having issues with certain provisions, the same ones he had issues with last year. Climate, energy. He says, here's how I approach the situation with Lisa Murkowski. Good. I like the narrative. Now, ironically, some news reporters are actually saying what I would say, which is, remember, Lisa Murkowski is a Republican. She's supporting what Joe Manchin's introducing. So that is causing some people to say, maybe you can get, some Republican votes for the Build Back Better Act if it's done the right way. Very, very interesting. Here's something new for today on Afternoons for April 26th. We always talk about Build Back Better Act as a reconciliation, a Democrat-only bill. Is it possible that Republicans could potentially vote for it? I think so, because I think that Republicans have to show that they're giving you money from Congress going into the midterm elections. And I think it just plays into the cards of the Democrats to say, here, Democrats, we gave you money in the time of need before the midterm elections, and Republicans, they voted against the forced stimulus recon. I think you're going to see Democrats and get Republicans to support it, especially in those narrow swing states in those midterm elections. Really interesting. Now, the President of the United States had vowed last week to put Build Back Better Act front and center for the president's domestic agenda, for the president's domestic agenda, ahead of anything else at issue. How long did that stay on narrative? About 11 seconds. Because what happened? The president of the United States, and I'm going to say this correctly, so slow down with me. The president of the United States last week dedicated $1.5 billion to Ukraine. Today, another $500 billion to Ukraine. Can someone take away the checkbook from Joe Manchin? Not Joe Manchin, Joe Biden. Just take away the checkbook, because this is not going to win anything in the midterm elections. Every day, I'm reporting another check going to Ukraine, and that's after Blinken and Austin went to Ukraine yesterday, and the president of Ukraine said, did you show up with more than a cake? He actually said that. So imagine if I said that to Joe Biden. He comes to California and Americans are homeless in time of need and in time of a lot of economic stimulus. Did you show up with something other than just a limo? Other than Air Force One? Did you show up with something? Now that I spoke to him that way. Yeah, well, he didn't speak to the president. He spoke to Blinken. I'll try it first with Blinken and say, hey, give more economic agenda to the domestic electorate. Now, the other detail that came in the last few days is that the economic data continues to stall. And Wall Street's expected that the gross national product, which shows how big this economy is, how big the economy is growing, will be at 3.7% later this year. The comment was off the record by a White House insider. Why was it off the record? Because Wall Street's expecting the U.S. economy to grow by 4% by the end of the year. Me, I'm expecting it not to grow. I'm expecting 0 or a negative percentage point. And I'm not alone. Deutsche Bank says the same thing. They're expecting the major German bank, U.S. economy to go into recession for 2 years starting next year. If you're in a recession, the GDP number's negative. What's also happening? Goldman Sachs says there's a 35% chance of recession as well. So something in the White House economically is not working, and no one on the record would say that. We're at 6.9% GDP growth right now, and we're basically saying with this insider, we're shrinking to 3.7 by the end of the year. I'm saying we're shrinking to 0 by the end of the year. And some insiders saying negative percentage point by the end of the year. That's why refocusing is back on domestic agenda. As we go into the midterm elections, what's important to understand is that this is not 2020. This is not 2020, when we had a disagreement between Republicans and Democrats as to whether the economy is good or bad. There's enough economic data out there that shows the economy is stalling. Now, there's some parts of the economy doing great, but most parts of the economy are stalling. And that is why they got to do what they got to do. Now, let's not get things confused. There is Joe Biden and there is Jay Powell. Jay Powell is head of the Federal Reserve. He deals with inflation. Joe Biden, he deals with domestic economic agenda. They have different tools and different toolboxes. And what Jay Powell will be doing in just a few days as head of the Federal Reserve is raising those interest rates at the May FOMC meeting, another half basis point. Now let's make it the first half basis point, I should say, not another. The one after that, the FOMC meeting thereafter, I believe there'll be another half basis point. Now let's go over how the last 6 days, 5 days, the Fed watch has changed so dramatically. Today, if you turn on news, you're just going to hear people left and right talking about 3/4 of a basis point. I can't believe we've come to that narrative. That has been shot down by the Federal Reserve. They're staying at a half basis point indefinitely. Why is this important? Your benefits. Joe Biden, when running for president of the United States, and then in his presidential platform at joebiden.com, said that he's going to swap your benchmark, if you're on benefits, from COLA to inflation. Your current benchmark is COLA. It don't work. It never has worked because COLA is generally a weak number. It's 0 or it's 1 or 2%. Last year, your benefits, you watched your COLA announcement came in at 5%. So your benefits went up 5% this January, not just this January, this lifetime, because once your benefits go up, they go up lifetime. But you got cheated because COLA was only 5%, inflation was 8%. Had Joe Biden swapped COLA for inflation, you would have gotten 8% more per month. That's about $200 more per month, not just 1 month, not just this year, but lifetime. Jay Powell's job is to bring down inflation. That is why, very simply, you want Joe Biden to make that swap from COLA to inflation right today. Now, something new I want to make very clear early on this recording is that Joe Biden has done similar things. He just needs to take care of this one right away, folks. This is not a hard effort. All it revolves around is ET phone home. I'm not referring to him as ET. I'm not referring to Jay Powell as ET. I'm just saying ET phone home. JB phone home. Call the Social Security Administrator. Swap that COLA for inflation. In the last 4 months, what has Joe Biden done similarly? He picked up the phone and called the Department of Agriculture saying, pay more money for SNAP. And they did. Then he picked up the phone and contacted Miguel Cardona, head of education, saying, hey, you need to do some student loan debt forgiveness. All he has to do on this one is pick up the phone and call the Social Security Administrator head, swap COLA for inflation. Now, what's going on with Jay Powell, and where is our timeline on swapping this out? Every week it gets a little bit better for you if you're on benefits, worse for anyone that wants to have a lower inflation, because guess what? Inflation's staying hot. It was 8% in December, and guess what? I predicted it all last year. I projected 8% inflation in December. Most Wall Street analysts and the Federal Reserve saying it's going to be temporary and coming back down. That's how they got wrong. That's why they're scrambling right now to get inflation down. 8% in December, 8% in January, 8% in February. All these things are projected, and I projected 8% or higher in March. It did come in higher in March. Where are we in April? If you go to the supermarket today, look at how much you're paying for that dozen eggs, same brand, same market, what you paid 30 days ago. If you can think in your mind, did it go up 10 cents? It did, or it didn't. Did it go up? Then you see inflation worse. That's what I changed for you is back in February to March. What happened? Wheat, grain, fresh fruits, and vegetables went up 3% from February to March. What happened with energy? That's easy. Gasoline went up 11% in 1 month. Yeah, that one's easy. And what about general consumer goods, just all across the market? They went up a little bit, 0.3%. So inflation's higher. We're likely at about 8.2% inflation. What is the latest details on what Jay Powell has today? Remember, he's still doing half basis point at that May FOMC meeting. But what's the latest economic data that came in today? First, this one's interesting. Travel and price inflation. The airlines are reporting record bookings for travel across the board. Record bookings. All the airline stocks are up dramatically. But let's take a look at this number. This is what I find fascinating. When polled in a series of new reports, it says that those most likely to plan a vacation are incomes with household of incomes of more than 100,000. And that is 75% of households with more than, let me say that again, households of 100,000 or more annual income. 75% of those respondents say they're planning a family trip this year. With families less than $50,000 annual income, less than 56% are planning a family vacation. That shows very big price disparity. That's almost what we talked about as a K-curve back, 2 years ago. In fact, Joe Biden talked about it. When economic recovery is only for people who make 6 figures and people who make 5 figures, they're not celebrating with a vacation. let's look at something else that's hitting across the board. Supply chain disruption and profits. Well, here we go. I had told you there's a major supply chain disruption hitting the major auto manufacturers. There's also like a demand this year. And guess what? There's concern about Wall Street analysts that Ford and General Motors could have massive supply chain disruption, putting pressures on their 2022 earning reports coming out this week. More about that in a second when we get to 6 stimulus in the recording. But there you go. When we put this together, Federal Reserve and also Build Back Better Act, what do we have? We have that they got to get it done, and they're likely to get it done. One, when you look at the calendar and the midterm elections, they have just a short period of time to get it done. The midterm elections are November, you know that, but most people vote by mail. The voting by mail is 60 to 90 days ahead of time. So what does that mean for you? Let's count it out. November, October, September. Okay, so people start voting as early as September, maybe even August. That means they need the check before then, July. To get the check before then, they have to send it out in June. To get the check sent out in June, they have to sign it into law, or the president has to sign it into law by May, and they have to have the vote like tomorrow. Yeah. So you see there's a massive rush across the board. Chuck Schumer, I've never really gone in deep on you, but today I want to go on deep on you. How dare you, Chuck Schumer, on the floor of the Senate yesterday, saying it's emergency urgency to immediately do one thing. What do you think was the urgency that Chuck Schumer said he has to do by the end of the week? What do you think was the emergency urgency that he has to do by the end of the week? Confirm a cabinet member to the ambassadorship to Ukraine. This is not an urgent situation, Chuck. Where are your priorities? Come on already. Do you want me to bring back What the Chuck? I can. People are asking for Saloon back. Maybe I'll bring back What the Chuck as well. That is not an urgent situation, a ambassadorship appointment to Ukraine. There you go. So this is why I think that Build Back Better Act is going to get done. And if the president stops writing checks to other countries, which ain't going to help him in the midterm elections either, then we're back on point for getting a Build Back Better done. Now, what's also at issue is that swapping COLA to inflation right today locks in that $200 more per month because inflation is higher than 8%. What about by the end of the year? Then, if inflation tracks at 4% by the end of the year, which is looking like it will, then your benefits will go up another $100. That's SS300. Tonight on Evening LA in prime time, I'm going to go over more about this analysis of how this locks in and why it's incredible great news. But what's important during this broadcast, and certainly before tonight, is for you to become a member. The membership link is at the top of the chat, the pinned comment. Become a member, Purple Hawk, Purple Power, Calcino VIP. Why? Because now there's not just one forced stimulus check landing by direct deposit. There's a lot. And we're going to go over them starting right now. The first forced stimulus check became a surprise to even myself when I told you that 2 states were paying out forced stimulus checks. And I said, give it a couple weeks, you'll see more. Well, it was more. It just wasn't a couple weeks, a couple hours. 48 hours later, 20 plus states have announced forced stimulus checks or a version of forced stimulus check. And let me go over the details of it right now. Use or lose is the concept at issue. Use or lose is the concept that you use the money given to you by the states from the federal government. Let me say that another way, that the states use the money given to them by the federal government, or they lose it. When was it created? When was it first covered on this channel? It was first covered in fall of 2020, when first stimulus money sat at the states. And Steve Mnuchin said, you know, states, you have a lot of this money, use it or lose it. And eventually what happened? Exactly what you expect to happen. States aren't going to lose money given to them for free. They're going to use it. So states rolled out that money in dramatic form. They used all that money. Now what's going on is a very mirror image of it. It's third stimulus. And with third stimulus, what happens? Third stimulus passed in 2021, and the states were given a lot of money. Now they have another use or lose it provision. When's the use it by? December 2022. But more about that in a second. The narrative or the information you need to know is the following. 1, every state will use the money. No state will lose the money. No state is returning any money to the federal government. If it's free money, they're going to use every single penny of it. So they're all going to send you money, if they have it. Number 2, they all have money, but different states have different extra sums of money. What's at issue? When third stimulus passed, the same amount of money was given to every state. Let me say that again, because I always get this comment. My state has no money. It has money. My state is broke. It has money. My state is Republican. It has money. Let me go over it. When third stimulus passed, every state was given the same amount of money based upon the population of the state. They were given the same amount of money whether the state was Republican or Democrat, whether the state's rich or poor. So now states have a lot of excess money. I'll use Kentucky. It has a lot of excess money, even though it's a very Republican state and perceived sometimes as a poor state. They have a lot of excess money. So what are they doing? They're using the money. In the case of use or lose, how does their money work out? Well, they got to use it by December, meaning they got to send you the checks in your state by at least November, October. Now, in the case of the states, they have a Congress, like the federal Congress. It's just the state legislature. And they have two bodies, two branches of that state legislature. And then they have a governor. So the governor has to sign it, presumably by about August. Then the first branch pass it in July, second branch pass it in June. They got announced in May. We're right back to the president. And they want to do this as well. Now, the difference when we're talking about states is the following. If the state governor announces he or she wants to do it, it gets done. It's as simple as that. You have generally the case where the governor is the controlling party of also the state legislature. So the governor announces today, we're doing something, expect it to happen. And what's going on? Well, it started last Thursday as two states, actually one state on Thursday, one state on Friday, announced this big money, and it continues to grow by the leaps and bounds. What's at issue? Let's go over the details. Well, it started with the state of Pennsylvania. Why do I always want to say the state of Philadelphia? It's not the state of Philadelphia, it's the state of Pennsylvania. Yeah, I just always want to default to that. It was the state of Pennsylvania, and the state of Pennsylvania announced that it has that money and it wants to spend the money. So away we rocked and rolled. The state of Pennsylvania announced that it has the money. It does not want to hold back. It wants to send the money out. Then came the state of Maine. Says it wants to send the money out. State of Pennsylvania said, we're going to do $2,000 stimulus check. State of Maine said $500, $850. That was by Thursday. By the weekend, we went from 2 states to 20 states, and we aren't done there yet. How do you get these big checks? How do you get these state stimulus checks? What are the state stimulus checks? How are they different? Are they all pure stimulus checks? What do they look like? You want to become a member. Become a member. The link's at the top of the chat. The pinned comment. Purple Hawk, Purple Power, or Calcino VIP. Then get that incredible newsletter Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It features the answers to these questions, which we're going to be going over in just a second. Don't forget to subscribe as well, because you need to be a subscriber and a member. Then, you thought that only Congress could send you stimulus from the federal government? No. You forgot about that other branch called the presidential executive branch. Joe Biden has now sent out by direct deposit 4 stimulus checks as well. It is huge, and they've landed by direct deposit. How do you get them? You become a member after the commercial break. We're going to go over these incredible checks. Yes, presidential 4 stimulus checks have landed by direct deposit. I'm going to go over the brand new presidential 4 stimulus checks. They're incredible. Then we'll be going over to those state 4 stimulus checks. They're incredible as well. We'll be looking at the other stimulus checks that will be coming right behind them, because I told you the month of May is going to be a busy month. There's not a day or time you don't want to miss a recording. There's not a day or time you don't want to miss that membership newsletter delivered 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Become a member during the commercial break. And after the commercial break, we'll be coming back and going over these incredible checks. Then we'll be turning to 6 stimulus. Now that Macron was re-elected in France, we're all excited about 6 stimulus. What will it look like and how quickly will it be done? What's at issue? I'll have the latest details on that front. Then we'll be looking at why China is so important to everything we're covering today. You're going to be shocked. And I got to tell you, you better be prepared for the downside of the Chinese worries across the board. What are those worries? They're coming up after the commercial break. We got a big recording today for April 26, 2022. We're just getting started. It's a great day, but first here's a little bit about the members community page. I'll be back with you in 60 seconds, and I'll have a preview of tonight's Evenings LALATE.
If you want money right now, not 5 days from now, and not 5 weeks from now, then reach out to the community page. The volunteers can help you find that money for rent and utilities. That's at news.lalate.com/community. The community page features a series of volunteers who are viewers like you. They can help you find rent, utilities, SNAP, food benefits, mortgage assistance, and help you with eviction moratorium questions as well. Their Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram individuals reach out to them and indicate the city and state you're from, and they'll get back to you shortly. That's a community page. Volunteers working for you, viewers helping one another. Stay with LA for more. Join LALATE daily for the excitement of the new LALATE live daily. The excitement starts on mornings LALATE at 9 a.m. Home LALATE returns at 11 a.m. daily. And then afternoons LALATE at 1 p.m. Join us daily as the excitement continues live from Santa Monica on LALATE.
And the excitement continues on a big second half of Afternoons LA for April 26, 2022. Major developing details across the board as we look at those interest rates likely going higher with that FOMC meeting. But get ready, because student loan debt forgiveness has heated up. 6 executive orders in just 7 days and the opportunity to forgive all student loan debt. Whoa, that is on the table. Then we'll be looking at those recessionary concerns. We'll be looking at that 6 stimulus package. But first, you know what we're going to. Those big stimulus checks. And the first one we're going to look at, of course, is those state stimulus checks. The state of Pennsylvania was the first to announce a state stimulus check, pure stimulus check, $2,000 to residents across the states. Now, let me make something clear before I make the details evident. What's important to understand is that when we're talking about these state stimulus checks, they look at the same guidelines as the federal government. So people were asking me yesterday, who would get it? Same thing. There's only 2 numbers you always have to remember. Single individual, $75,000 or less annual income, or married couple, $150,000 or less annual income. That is always the income qualification for all these things. It came in late 2020 and it got a little bit modified, but that is always the income qualification. Do not add another qualifier for it. So if you say, what about for SSI? What, do you make less than $75,000? I do. That's all you have to ask. You don't have to ask, what about for veterans? What about for Social Security? That is the income qualification. All right, let's go to the incredible news. So, in the case of Wolf, he said that we need to get this money out the door. Who is Wolf? Of course, he is the governor, Tom Wolf, of Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania should not have to choose between paying for higher utilities or groceries, children or gas, childcare or gas. We have the opportunity, meaning we have the cash in the bank, and the means to ensure that they're not that our citizens are not struggling, to ensure success. So I asked that my state legislature work across the aisle for the Commonwealth succeeds and get this money out of the bank account of the state and send it to the pockets of my citizens in my state. There you go. $2,000. In the case of Maine, $800. Now let's go over what's happening. That was Thursday. We have grown to 20 states, and I'm going to check it every single few hours for you. But here's what's going on. We now have 20 states who have now proposed or passed legislation to either give you a forced stimulus check or a forced stimulus relief. Let me go over the details of it across the board. Every state is approaching it differently, and every state's at a different crossroads. Some have gotten it done, meaning they passed the bill, and some have proposed it. Now, let me make something clear. Again, if they propose it, it gets done. It's not the case of the federal government. And getting done is going to happen in the next few weeks. Then, if they have it done, then you're going to get it. And let me make something else clear, which I haven't made clear before. If they've gotten something done, don't be surprised if they do another thing on top of that. Yeah, it's really exciting. So what are they doing? And how do you find it out? And what is it? And which states? This is the value of becoming a member. Open that membership newsletter, which since last Thursday now features in there the states for stimulus. In the membership newsletter, at the top of it, we have the oil, wheat, and corn prices today. And then we have the check A, check B, check C, check D. And here it is, check D. This, my friends, is check D, the fourth of four different for stimulus checks now landing. If that was a tongue twister, let me say it again. Check D is the fourth of four different stimulus checks now landing. That's why you want to get across the board. It is a $2,000 stimulus check on average, landing from your state as fourth stimulus. Again, this is sent out from your state from fourth stimulus. How do you find out which states is paying it, how they're paying it, and what's going on? First, you want to become a member. The membership link's at the top of the chat. Purple Hawk, Purple Power, or Calcino VIP. Then become a member. Newsletter comes out Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time via the YouTube alert system. Become a member, get that newsletter, and then go in there and you'll see check A, B, C, and then we go to D. Now, let me tell you where the status is at the moment. We have some states that have said, we're sending out a pure stimulus check. Some states, the check is actually quite large. I was shocked. It's a really large check. I was really, really surprised. Other states, the check is a little bit smaller. Some states, the check includes dependents like children. Some states it doesn't. Some states, it's not a pure check. It is you file a tax return. Then they're going to, when you file your tax return, you're going to get a tax credit or a tax check reduction. Let's say you owed $1,000 in taxes this year. Then there's an $800 tax credit as the stimulus package. You only have to pay $200. And let's say you owed only $400 and you had an $800 tax credit, then you get a tax refund check. Yeah, they're doing it that way. In other states, they're doing a no gasoline tax at the pumps for a few months. That's not to say that's the only thing they're going to do. They're doing that at the moment. And it's just very, very fluid. It's very exciting. In a 50-minute video, there's no time for me to go over 50 states. And that is why I break down the 20-plus states at the moment. I go over in the newsletter what it is, which state, where is the process at the moment, has it been approved, has it been passed, is it pending, so you know the data across the board. It's so simple. It's put together for all of you right in the membership newsletter. All right, now let's go to presidential for stimulus checks. Presidential for stimulus checks have gone out and landed by direct deposit. They are absolutely incredible. And unlike a first stimulus check of $1,200, unlike the second stimulus check of $600, these are monstrous checks. $12,000, $50,000, $60,000, $80,000 for stimulus checks. Yeah, these are enough. These are more than all the prior stimulus checks combined and doubled and tripled. Let's go over the first stimulus check that's at issue. The first presidential for stimulus check, that is a law, that is landed in direct deposit for you, is $6,500 to $12,000. What is this? Now remember, as I said earlier in this video, you can have a congressional pass stimulus, state pass stimulus. In this case, we have presidential. You know the words, executive order. $6,500 to $12,000 for stimulus checks have landed by direct deposit. This is a for stimulus check. The income qualification, you already know this. I taught this to you earlier in the video. Single individual, $75,000 less, you can get it. Married couple, $150,000 less, you can get it. This check is not doubled if it's a married couple. Let me just make that clear. It's called the Homeowners Weatherizing Grant Check, and it's absolutely incredible. So how do you go get this? You become a member. Go into that membership newsletter, and that is check A. Right at the top of the newsletter, again, is first the price of oil, wheat, and corn, and then we go right into check A. You'll see check A, a little bit more about the great nuances of it, and then there's a link to the website. Yeah, you click the link. You go right in, and you apply. You'll see the federal government first, then you'll see your state, like Mississippi, then you choose the Homeowners Weatherizing Grant Check. And you apply, and you get funded. How easy is that? That's the value of a membership. Then, another check is landed by direct deposit. Presidential for stimulus check number 2. You ready for it? It's check B. Check B is $15,000 to $80,000. It's huge, and boy, is it incredible. It's paying out about $66,000, $80,000. Now, let's make this very clear. These routings of these checks are slowing down a little bit because they've been a law for now a few weeks. If you just found this channel, welcome. But give it a little bit of time, give it a little bit more patience, because the routing time is slowing down, because this channel brings in a lot of viewers, millions of viewers. So millions of people across the board are applying every day. You want to pounce across the board. Income qualification, same as before. Single and married couple, you heard those numbers. Then, where do you get this check? Same way. You open the membership newsletter. Become a Purple Hawk, Purple Power, Calcino VIP. Open that membership newsletter and go right in there and find check C. Check B. I just messed that up. Find check B. And you will then see the link for check B. It'll send you into the national website. You'll actually see a map. You click the map, and that map will then send you into your respective state. Here's what the map looks like. Choose your state, like Georgia. And then you go into your state, you apply, and you're ready to pounce. It's as easy and breezy as that. We're not done there yet, because while we've gone over check D from the states, check A from the federal government, check B from the federal government, there's also check C. Now, check C is very different. It's actually a little bit fascinating, so let me slow this one down. You see the date on that one? Yeah, 2021. Check C is not a fourth stimulus check. It is actually a third stimulus MSC check, but it's still paying out. And if you haven't gotten it, you can get it. What's going on? Let's take it back to 2020. In 2020, the thing of the pandemic means Americans needed assistance like rent, utilities, mortgage assistance, as many people do still need to now. And I looked high and low to find money, and I found $250,000 of it. I got viewers at the time. There was not a lot of money at the time. The good news was that it helped people survive from the thick of Christmas 2020 to the spring of 2021. Like Tyrone and his family for it out of Boston got $15,000 at a time. But the great news was at the time was that I had a piece of proposed legislation in my hand. It was almost exclusive. And I said, if this becomes law, you're going to see the same things you're doing right now, just a lot more money of it. And boy, was a lot more money of it. Guess what happened? It became law. It became third stimulus. The American Rescue Plan in early 2021. And guess what? As soon as it became law, I said, go get it. I think you can get about $15,000 now that I've trained you. Let's make this clear. When third stimulus became law, everyone and their sister and brother said there was just $1,400 in there. I said, no, there's all this other money. I think can get you about $15,000. The viewers of this channel did not get a $1,400 stimulus check just from third stimulus. They averaged about $45,000. That's the value of listening to the videos, taking notes, becoming a member, because this is the difference. Not $1,500 stimulus checks, $15,000. No, viewers averaged $45,000. Let's go over the success stories then and how it brought us up to these MSE checks right now. It's really a fascinating story. So what happened was that the viewers started getting these massive sums of money. Let's look at the sums of money that viewers got at the time. They were getting $20,000 to $30,000 for rent and $15,000 for utilities. Let's look at it. Wow, look at these numbers. This is rent. Here is utilities. We had $15,000 from Mark's brother-in-law. Let's look at the SNAP. Mark's brother-in-law getting $25,000 over 10 years, $250,000. Let's look at the combos. Oh my goodness. It keeps on growing. Look at these enormous numbers. There's Mark. He was at 30,000, then went to 50, then went to 100,000, then went to 166. Here's Lorraine. She was at 105. She went to 120. We had Johnny, who got $80,000 in 7 days. Helped two family members, each got $50,000. Then helped a whole neighborhood of friends, got over $350,000, I think it was, for 20 people. It's astronomical. Which brings us up to the present. What happened? Well, I had told people in early 2021, get around. They did 3 to 4 months. Last summer, same thing. Last Christmas, same thing. This spring, no. They said, no, I'm not going to do it anymore. Excuse me? What do you mean you're not going to do it anymore? Because I want a whole year. A whole year. Who told you to do that? I didn't tell you that. They said, I just came up with myself. I'm going to run with it. And they ran with it, and they got it. And viewer after viewer started getting it. What happened? Viewers started doing 12 months of these monies, not 3 to 4 months. And suddenly it started rolling out massive sums of money. And that's why it's incredibly important to get these sums of money. These sums of money are paying out, and boy, are they paying out a lot. You're going to reach out to your city hall, your city house authority, your county hall, your county house authority, your state hall, and your state house authority. Then, if you're a member, you're going to reach out to the nonprofits because there's over 5 of them. So if you're a member, you're going to reach out to about 15 places. You're going to make 15 phone calls. Get ready to make those phone calls. You ain't making one phone call and calling it a day. Not on my watch. No. You're making about 15 phone calls, and you will get approved. You'll have about a 50% rejection rate, so you'll get about 7 out of the 15 approved, and you will be ecstatic. This is rent, utilities, and mortgage assistance. It's everywhere across the country. Remember, third stimulus is given the same amount across the country in every single state. The viewers who have won over the last 2 years of this channel, the ones that have listened. Every state has money, every county, every place has money. Now let's remember, the reason why I tell you the 6 places to reach out to and the nonprofits is because some states have very small cities. If your city has, 100 residents, do you think your city has $20 million in the bank? No, of course not. If your county is very small, some people have very small counties, 2,000 people in the county. There's not going to be a lot of money in the county. It's going to be at the state level. That's why I tell you city, county, state, because I don't know how big the places that we work. The way it worked on the third stimulus, I think explained this in a while, is that the money was given to the state, which then gave it to the county, and then gave it to the city based upon the population size. So if they have big cities, they gave it all the way down the city. If the city had 20 people, they didn't get a lot of money to the city. They said come to the state to get the money. And that's how it works across the board. Now let's go into that 6th stimulus. 6th stimulus is getting really interesting, folks. 6th stimulus has a lot of moving parts today because Macron was reelected on Sunday. Who is he? He's the president of France. And with that reelection, Macron, what's going on? Well, what's going on is that we need a major stimulus package, the Western allies, says France, Germany, and the United States. The initial concept was debt spending and then sending out stimulus to the citizens. Why? Because it doesn't matter if you're in Italy or France or the United States, you cannot afford the price of gasoline through the month of May. Or you go into recession. Well, guess what? May's just around the corner. We're going into recession. Number 2, you cannot afford the price of bread through the month of May. Price of commodities, wheat and grain, go up higher every week on this channel. And it could go up at least 40% compared to the month of March by the end of the summer. The price of oil continues to surge today. And what's going on with that front? Well, there's a lot of excitement now that Macron's been reelected because they believe it's going to get done. Now, something that is getting done as well is that student loan debt forgiveness. This is 7 stimulus. Yeah, you see how stimulus packages overlap? 7 stimulus has now had no less than 6 executive orders in 7 days, and it could have the biggest one coming up. I think it will. What's happened? The president under 7 stimulus has forgiven student loan debts for individuals who became disabled after graduation, then who went to work in the nonprofit sector, then who went to work in the public sector. What happened after that? The president said if your student loan debts were procured by fraud, no, I'm going to forgive it. If he says the university defrauded you, I'm going to forgive it completely. Wow. If your debts were in default, I'm going to put in good standing. That's great. And then everyone else's debt repayment, I'm rolling over from May to September. But the great news came on last Friday when the press secretary, Jen Psaki, said, you know what? The president has still on the table complete student loan for debt forgiveness. You heard me right. On the table? When was it ever on the table? He never answered that question for months. This is great news. So forgiveness of complete student loan debts is still on the table. What's going on right now? Get your pen and paper ready if you're a student with debt. And congratulations to the students, or former students, I shall say, former students, who got their debts forgiven by watching this channel, like Chef John Mayer with $9,000. We have the Undersecretary to Miguel Cardona at Education, James Cavall, who says we have ongoing rulemaking that will take a look at see what type of statutes should qualify for IDR credit. Write that down, IDR credit. What are they doing? They're trying to find statutes that they can modify so that more debts can be forgiven. Then he also says, we're looking to immediately cancel debt, forgive debt, with the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. Write that down, Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. And write this one down, the income-based repayment programs. This is no surprise to viewers of this channel because I've been saying this since, I think it was March, when King, who was the education secretary under Obama Biden, said that Joe knows you have a lot of abilities to forgive student loan debts by executive action. All you do is modify the legislation, modify the eligibility. It looks just like what we're talking about stuff early in this video. swapping college for inflation, raising the SNAP. I believe that he's going to do complete student loan debt forgiveness. Wow, that's huge. Now, where is my commentary for today? My commentary today is that this is a very, very unprecedented, hard to predict economic market right now. Oil prices up. The Dow is down 450 points right today. It was down 900 points last week. It's down, actually, now it's down 577. We started this broadcast at it was down 400 points. Now it's down almost 600 points today. That's the Dow Jones. The NASDAQ is down 414 points. That's a lot for the NASDAQ, down 3%. The price of oil right now today is surging back up. It's about 3% up right now, 105. These are just not sustainable numbers. Crypto is going left and right, going up and down. Not sustainable numbers. What's going on? No one can really predict where this economy is going, but let me tell you what I think is going to be happening. You're going to have a bear market. You're going to have a bear market where stocks are not going to end the year much higher than where they are right now. You will have your performers that somehow these stocks there and those stocks there do well, but you're going to generally have a bear market. Next, you're going to have a recession for 2 years starting in 2023. I think it's absolutely apparent. I think that the housing market and also the auto market is already in recession. Then we have the unknown. We have absolutely the unknown variables. And the unknown variables, some of them are becoming a little bit more known. Some of them are not becoming known. The one that's becoming a little bit more apparent is China. China's supply chain disruption is really going to hurt the U.S. economy. China is a place where we make products and ship them back to us, and where we import their products. China's on major lockdown today. Major lockdown because of that subvariant of Omicron. And with that lockdown, major supply chain disruption, that brings up inflation. I don't think Jay Powell's going to get down inflation. And I think that GDP growth of China will shrink. Our growth will shrink as well. Because you can't sell the goods, you don't make as much money. Next, we don't know how long this Russian invasion of Ukraine will continue. I said in the very first week of the invasion, I think it was going to be a few months. I told you late in October, before Halloween, it was going to be the major economic story of 2022. It is. I think the second major economic story of 2022 will be the Chinese subvariant problems. And that one, the unknown of it is spreading today. There's major concerns across the board that the subvariant is going to cause major supply chain disruptions in Europe. And that's very bad news for us, folks, because a lot of the U.S. auto manufacturers and U.S. businesses have other offices in Europe, and they sell to Europe, and those earnings are reported back here. Those earnings depend on impact your salary check because you may be employed by that company in the United States, but they have the overseas office. This subvariant of Omicron is very, very unknown. It's an unknown variable. The next part of the equation is this sort of bubblish environment. I really just think there's a very bubblish environment out there. You saw it early in this recording. The housing sales numbers released today showed that housing prices went up in the month compared to the month before dramatically, and compared to the year before. This is before the mortgage numbers in there. Let me tell you why I think I'm worried about numbers like this. The reason I'm worried about numbers like this is because when people look at these housing numbers, say, oh, the price of homes went up a lot. The number is delayed out 3 months, and it does not have the impact of the mortgage rate in there. Mortgage rates went from 3% to 5% from February to May, February to where we are right now, April. That's a massive surge, and yet people don't see that impact on the housing sale numbers. So there's a delay. Delay in information is where people get caught in the crosswinds. They think it's good and they don't realize it's bad because the bad data it happened 2 months ago and isn't been reported yet. That is when people get caught on the crosswinds. My focus on this issue, my focus with your wallet, my focus with your family, my focus with our community is I want you to be ahead of the game. I want you to be ahead economically. Last year I had you ahead when I said it was going to be inflation in 8% in December. No one was saying that. I said, get ready for the inflation. You did. What I'm saying right now, auto and housing is already in recession. The rest of the U.S. economy will be in recession by January 2023, and it'll be 2 years of it. So get ready. And inflation will still be with us for a few more months while interest rates will go higher. So if you have car loans, if you have flexible mortgage rates, it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse. So that's the balancing out. Remember, when there's checks available for you, you get every check. You cash every check. You don't pass up a check. And I think that's why the membership of this channel has surged in recent days, because people realize, wait a second, there's now a check from the state. Wait a second, there's a check from Joe Biden. I'm going to stop focusing on just Build Back Better Act. I'm going to focus on any check that's available. If it's a good check, I'm going to grab it. If there's a couple checks, I'm going to grab all of them. One of the things I haven't made clear in this recording is that a lot of these checks, you can get many of them at the same time. You can get check A, you can get check B, you can get check C if you are within that zone of eligibility, and you can get check D. You can get a lot of these different checks. As one very nice viewer, Carol, said, LA, you make it so simple. You really do make it so simple. That membership newsletter is a godsend because it puts all this confusion of floating checks in different locations all together in a nicely compact newsletter delivered Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Central. It's all concise with the direct links. It's wrapped up in a box with a bow on it, and it's delivered to you so simply per day. That's why you want to become a member. Now, remember, make sure you have your alerts set on and you're subscribed as well. First, go to the front of this channel, hit that subscribe button. Then, there's a little bell at the front of this channel. Hit that bell and make sure it's set to all notifications. And then watch for that newsletter. The newsletter has in the title, newsletter, that has a picture of a surfer with the image of newsletter sent out at about 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, which I'll remind viewers, that's not 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. There's a time delay. It's 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Central. And with that, join me next on Evenings LA at 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. We have a big show tonight. It's Evenings LA at 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Huge show, a 1-hour special broadcast. Stay informed, stay focused, have a beautiful day, and stay with LA for more.